Welcome back to another edition of That Millwall Podcast. This is episode 16 of the new season. So Series 2, the new season, and episode 16. And I got it correct. Yes.
You did. Well done.
Thanks. And as that voice you've heard, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see him already. That is Omer, my co-host. So good morning, Omer. How are you?
Morning, Micky, mate. I'm all good. Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to chatting away about yesterday's game with our special guest today. It's going to be great.
Yeah, without further ado, let's welcome our Millwall legend. He's an English former professional player. He's played for Goalkeeper as Chelmsford, Millwall and Coventry City. He's worked as a football scout for Everton, Tottenham, Aston Villa. He's managed various clubs in Norway and in Sweden, and currently he resides in Norway. It really doesn't need much more introduction than that. It's the one and only Millwall legend, Bryan King. Good morning, Bryan.
Good morning, Micky, and good morning, Omer.
Morning.
Good morning. So you were there yesterday. You were, I think, up in the VIP area, weren't you? You were. Did you do a speech?
Yes, I did. I had an introduction from Wes. I also met Barry Rowan, and I met my dear friend Billy Neal. And of course, there was about 110, 120 people up there, which was good, and just had to explain who I was. A lot of younger boys up there, a lot of younger people up there, obviously, who don't know who I am. But they certainly responded to me very well. And as all Millwall supporters that I meet, once they know who you are or what you've done, you're always welcomed into the family.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was born the year you left Millwall, to be honest to you. So I never got to see you play, and Omer definitely never got to see you play. But we know about you. We know the legendary status with you. We know the team you played with and everyone else. And I think I've known you for a while now. We chat quite regularly across WhatsApp and stuff like that, and we moan and groan about bits and pieces and the team. And the fact that you're over now, and we know that, and we're going to it a bit later on when you're back over, I thought it was an ideal opportunity. I know you're doing your book, and obviously we will promote your book throughout this show, but I just wanted to do it slightly different because you've been on various shows and you've spoken about the book and everything else. And the way we do our shows is that we review the game and we go into detail on the game and have our non-football minded expertise. It would be great to just get some of that expertise from you. You are, a legend to the sport. You are a professional. You've been a scout, so you do know football inside out. So I think what we do is we're come back after we'll come back after this onto part one, where we can hear Bryan join us in reviewing Millwall versus Coventry. We'll be back straight after this. Welcome back to part one. Millwall versus Coventry yesterday, 1-1 draw. There was a bit of controversy with the second goal for us and a few other incidents on the pitch. But I suppose we'll start with their goal, Bryan. What did you make of that? Too easy?
I thought it was very easy. I thought there were periods in the game where we let their players run quite large distances without putting them under any kind of pressure. The central midfield just seemed to disappear early on there. And when the boy was allowed to carry the ball and play the ball off, then get it back and then play it into that space on the right-hand side behind the fullback again. There was only one place he was going to hit it, and that was in off the far post. I thought Bart might give him a little bit too much room there, but there again, it should have been stopped. It could have been cleared. And to go 1-0 down against a side who'd I'd heard had been playing very well. And looking at the away support they had, that certainly surprised me, because whenever I've been down the Den, there always seems to be little pockets of away supporters in that stand. But it looked pretty full to me. And obviously Coventry are going through quite a good time under Mark Robins. They didn't fall into the trap of sacking Mark Robins because he didn't fulfil what they thought they were going to have, but having to play at Birmingham City away from the home stadium, now they're back. I'm also very impressed with the crowds they've been getting, 23,000, 25,000. well-supported club. And I was expecting things to be a bit difficult for Millwall because I kept hearing there were quite a lot of injuries. 7, 8 players could be out, which surprised me. At the players that were used, one player who always continues to impress me is the boy Jed Wallace. I think he's a very good footballer. It'd be interesting to see whether Millwall are able to hold on to him because I hear that his contract's up next season. But at the start, I thought we could be in trouble here with the pace they had up front. They were playing balls into the channels, and I thought we were quite fortunate early on not to go maybe 1 or 2 down. But when we got back in the game, we showed that we could play football, and I thought our goal was well worked. I mean, a great run and the ball in. Okay, it was deflected in the goal, but I thought the build-up, the ball in the box and the finish were, for Championship standards, very good. Can't understand how a game can turn a little bit when a side looked inferior as we did. Mm-hmm. And I thought the ball in from the left-hand side for the no goal was a real quality ball in. I mean, the kid's got a good delivery, and it was a great finish. I mean, I cannot see where offside come from that. I just can't see it. I know I've read somewhere today that Gary Rowett said that he's seen this incident 2 or 3 times. We only see it the once, but it certainly didn't look offside to me. And that, funnily enough, was prior to an attack that Coventry had when the guy was offside and he was allowed to go on and they could have scored. I mean, I thought the officials yesterday were poor. There were considerable amount of pushing, considerable amount of fouls that seemed to go against Millwall. But we were always told when I played, small referee, you're in trouble. He tries to put his influence on the game, and there was a funny incident when he was talking to Jake Cooper there. I mean, I think he just about come up to the top of Jake's shorts, and he's trying to reprimand him on something he'd done. But I thought that looked quite funny. But Millwall surprised me but I thought it was a good Championship game. I thought it was a good advert for that league. It's the first time I've seen a live game. I saw the game against Fulham on TV in Norway, and I thought that day Millwall really struggled against what seemed to be a quality team. But Coventry were also a good team. They passed it well. They got forwards, good movement. They were quick, and that caused our defenders a bit of a problem. Murray Wallace, I thought, done very well. Bart made a couple of decent saves with his feet. I just felt that we deserved, when I look at the game as a whole, I thought we deserved to win, to be honest, because that 2-1 goal, I think, would have changed things considerably. May have ended up 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game of football. Millwall surprised me after everybody's saying, oh, this is a 3rd draw on the trot. But hang on a minute, you're away to West Brom, you're away to Swansea. I think you'd have been happy with those 2 points. It's just that finishing that I think we need to work on and maybe bring in another front player. But it's going to be a long season. I can see that. And considering if it's true, all the injuries that we had, then I thought the lads that were there done pretty well.
Definitely. I mean, I totally agree with everything you recapped the game there, Bryan. I appreciate that. It's funny you picked up on obviously the wide areas down the flanks where you said obviously Coventry got a lot of joy. I think in the second half, he moved Cooper to the central and put Murray Wallace on the left side of the back three. And I think that was to kind of navigate that threat because time and time again, Coventry were kind of, running down the flanks and kind of getting a bit of joy there. And you mentioned obviously about the forward line. We have a Phobie who's on loan from Stoke City, who used to be at Arsenal, funny enough, as a boy. And I think if he was playing yesterday, could have maybe been the difference there. I mean, me and Micky obviously spoke about a few times about, that kind of final quality in the final area. And yeah, I couldn't agree more with you also about the disallowed goal. I think he's given it because I think Smith goes to the ball and then that kind of pulls the defender over and they're judging Smith to be offside. I agree with you. It's very contentious and it's happened time and time again. But I think that's just offside nowadays, isn't it, Mickey? You know, they try to catch us out, don't they? And I think Keith Stroud also he's the referee yesterday. We've had him a few times down the den, and he's always been a bit kind of love or hate relationship with the Millwall fans, isn't he, Mickey?
Yeah, no, he definitely does have. I mean, the offside, allegedly, the rule says if a player's moving from or standing in an offside position in a way of an opponent and interferes with the movement of the opponent towards the ball, this is an offside offence. If he impacts on the ability of the opponent to play or challenge for the ball, if the player moves into the way of an opponent and impedes the opponent's position or progress, e.g. blocks the opponent, the offence should be penalised under Law 12, which is obviously an offside ruling. But
thank God he never stood there and told everybody that's the reason, as they do in American football. When there's an offence or a foul, the referee makes the judgment, short and sharp. That's it. If he'd have made that judgment, there'd been a riot yesterday. I mean, it was just a great ball in. I mean, it was a great ball curling away from the keeper with pace. Mm-hmm. It was primed for a header. Smith, big fella. I thought Coventry struggled a little bit in the air defensively, and I was expecting more pressure, especially from dead ball situations with Cooper and Smith, because they are a force in the air. Coventry seemed to have problems defending balls coming into the box. I was a little bit. I mean, the second header that we should have been going for ended up being a simple catch for the goalkeeper, who was never really in any kind of pressure. Nobody put him under pressure for that ball. Mm-hmm.
They're not the tallest team either, were they, Coventry? I agree with you. Like you said, it could have been like, obviously they've got a lot of technically good players going forward, which we speak about, but the downfall would have been from set pieces, like you said, for defending them. And we didn't really test them enough. I think we only had, when we had the ball to stand up to the back post, it was kind of lofted in. And like you said, the keeper was unchallenged a lot of the time, wasn't he, to kind of just claim the ball. It was a shame.
No, it was, I thought that was a standout thing for me, seeing that Coventry had problems defensively, dealing with balls in the box, high balls in the box. Mm-hmm. And Millwall could have exploited that more. I thought that the two players, I mean, I do like the boy Wallace. I think he's an excellent footballer. And, if you had 7 or 8 first team players supposedly out, then the boys that came in matched a team which this morning are second in the league. Mm-hmm. You played a team that was first in the league the other week, West Brom. Swansea, of course, came back yesterday 3-0 down to 3-3. So, it's just that final third, I think, where we're going to have to get much more clinical. Because this league is tight, that's for sure.
On the subject of Wallace, you mentioned obviously, we all know his contract's running out at the end of the season potentially. And what do you make of that? Like, obviously, he's been at the club for 3 or 4 years, and we've been quite good to him, I feel like. And he's obviously understandably got the ambition to go to the next division. But what do you make of like players in general? I suppose kind of late 20s trying to run their contract down. I don't know if he is trying to do it intentionally. Obviously, he's keeping his options open, but what's your take on that, especially in the modern day where, he's a player probably in the Championship that we could maybe feasibly get 6, 7, 8 million before COVID if he had a couple of years on his deal, but now we could feasibly lose him for nothing. I just wonder what your take is on that.
No, it's a thing. I presume it's being controlled by an agent. Again, agents don't seem to have the same loyalty to clubs or managers or teammates as what we had in our day. Our discussions never involved an agent for a start, but whether that was good or bad, I don't know. But I can remember going in 2 or 3 times and talking to Benny about what's this in the paper, and to be fair, they would always say, look, Everton have been in, or Leeds, or Aston Villa, or Arsenal. We don't want you to go. I've made the point, you're not leaving this club until I leave this football club. And I said, well, that doesn't help me in my quest, maybe to play for England or playing in the whole first division. But he said, well, we will always help you financially as far as we can. And that's what they did. And although money's important, it didn't seem to be that important in them days,
Sure. I mean, yeah, It's a tough one, isn't it? You can understand the player, I suppose. He's thinking, he's probably going to be his last significant contract. If you say he's 27, 28, if he gets a next 3 or 4, maybe 5-year deal somewhere, it's probably his last big contract, isn't it, of his career? So maybe after that, he wouldn't get the same length. No. So maybe he's thinking for his future in his head as well, isn't he? That's maybe.
Well, it can be life changing for him, can't it? If he does get the first division club and it's the right club, he'll be earning really good money no matter who you play for in the Premier League. I mean, an ordinary player's earning a fortune, but he's thinking of himself and his family, I'm sure, and it certainly doesn't affect him on the pitch because he seems to be involved and wants to be involved in everything that moves forward. He works hard, so that is a difficult one to say whether he should. But then how far can Millwall go with a contract? And
very true.
And at the moment, it's I can't see Millwall being in the Premier League this time next year. So, as you say, Omar, time starts to run down for him.
How did you think of the players yesterday? I mean, me and Omar made a couple of comments throughout the game that some of them looked very leggy, very tired. Possibly between, they've had a few long away days. Swansea, they probably got back late. West Brom, they probably got they got back late. So going into this game, they obviously had a bit of a harder prep than Coventry. I mean, Coventry probably, an hour or so on the train and then a coach.
They had 2 home games, didn't they? Coventry have had 2 home games, whereas Millwall have had 2 away. And yesterday again, I mean, it's a very, very warm day. I couldn't believe how warm it was. I mean, it's 26 degrees. And when you see teams having to stop for drink breaks in September in England, you start thinking, well, climate change, maybe it is climate change. But no, it's been a hard couple of weeks for Millwall players, that's for sure. And although you've only got 3 points and against 3 decent teams, 2 of which had come down from the Premier League, and Coventry who seem to be in a very good phase at the moment. As I said before, why are all these injuries suddenly appeared? Is it because of the intensity of the matches? And no, I think they have to win soon. They've got to win again. Is that 4 games they've gone unbeaten, or is that?
We won just before the international against Blackpool, and then 3 draws in a week now. Yeah. So that's what the situation we're in.
It doesn't help as well when you've had nearly a 14-day international break, and then you've got those 2 trips. Because West Brom's a difficult place to go to. Let's be fair. Although Arsenal seem to find it quite easy. But no, I think there was a period in the game yesterday when you needed the subs to be made. I thought it could have happened a little bit earlier. Fresh legs, etc. Mm-hmm. But the lads that started the game, I thought that it looked as though we were going to get mullered at the start, to be honest. But they steadied themselves and got back into the game and played a little bit decent football. Got caught in possession a bit too much for me in periods of the game. The one thing is when you get it, you don't want to be giving it away that early. But they stuck at it, and I think at the end of the day, 1 each was a decent result. I know it's a 3rd draw on the trot, but
it's contentious. The draw thing it's kind of splits the fans a lot because obviously, like you say, 4 unbeaten. You try and take positives from that, but then some people would say you'd rather then maybe try and go for games a bit more where you say, okay, 2 good draws on the road, and then you got Coventry at home. But then you could say if you went for it against Swansea the other night and lost, but then you managed to nick a win at West Brom, and then you draw today or yesterday in that case, you finish the week with 4 points instead of 3 points. It's a difficult one for us at the moment because we're quite critical of Rowett. Well, not necessarily myself and Micky, but the fan base in general, where we're quite set up negatively with the formation we play. We have 5 defenders on the pitch. Obviously the 2 wing backs get forward a lot, but then you've got 2 holding midfielders who don't really kind of contribute a lot going forward. Although Saville did for the goal yesterday, it's quite difficult. I mean, how do you balance that as a manager when to kind of think to go for the games? If you know what I mean, it's a tough one for Rowett, I feel like.
Well, is he not confident in his first team squad? Because when you saw last year, you saw games at home last year where there was 5 across the back, and okay, you can always get away with that with the 3 and the 3 central defenders and your 2 wing backs pushing on. But I think that might give a little bit of a wrong impression to the supporters as well, because everybody's thinking we should have 5 up front, not alone 5 at the back. We're playing at the end. We're at Millwall, and we've got that extra man with the crowd. So I think people have got to understand either the squad isn't as good as what the supporters think it is, and that's why he's being cautious. But yesterday, I thought the game unfolded, and if that second goal, the second goal was a turning point in the game. There, if that had gone in, and everybody was euphoric, the crowd were up on their feet, the players were, and then you see a linesman standing with his flag up for some unknown reason. And I know, Mickey, you've explained it very fully. And,
I read the segment was in the rules, but my question is with that is that the linesman seemed to take forever and a day to suddenly
that's what I mean.
The goal went up and he was like, yeah.
When the ball, I think the thing that threw him was it was such a good ball in play with pace. After the first little confrontation, and then the boy headed it in.
Yeah.
I just can't see where he's coming. Whether he flagged offside for the position he finished after he headed it, I don't know. But
my thoughts are possibly looking, obviously, social media and things online. It looks as if he potentially flagged it off because
he gave it because of Smith.
Smith jumped over their player, even though he had no intention of touching it, because their player played him on. But I think that was.
I think the argument was Smith's in the middle, Bradshaw's behind him, who then tucks the ball away. Smith jumps to the ball, but then brings the defender closer to Smith, meaning then Bradshaw's free at the back post to score the goal. And then their argument is because of Smith being offside, affecting the play and bringing the defender across, then Bradshaw, who was onside, is adjudged to be offside because of Smith's involvement. It's a tricky one, I think. And I think even Mark Robbins after the game yesterday said, the Coventry manager, that we should have had that goal stood. If it was him on the other way around, he'd feel just as aggrieved, I think. So it's unfortunate.
Rightly so, because it's okay, but the ball in sorted out Coventry's defence. It was such a good ball in. When you're going to play a ball, it reminded me a little Dougie Alder. He used to knock in some great balls, Dougie. Illy. And this ball that he played in, it was going away from the keeper. So he was in 2 minds whether he was going to come or stay. Smith and the relatively, who I thought was not a bad player, the 5, certainly good when it was around his feet. He looked frightened to death when it got played in the air and Smithy was coming in on him. And you can't not go for that challenge because maybe the ball's going to go over your head, but you've still got to make that run and that challenge, because if it opens up for Bradshaw, then where's the fellow marking Bradshaw? Great finish, and it certainly didn't deserve to be disallowed. Because you said, Mickey, he took a long time to put that flag up.
Yeah. I think he even let Bradshaw celebrate, didn't he? Bradshaw celebrated right in front of him, done a little knee slide, then he puts his flag up, and you're thinking, what are you doing?
And also, I think it would have, like you said, I think it would have changed the game massively, because we questioned it as well, that the fans would just seem to have just known it. Just suddenly, it went really, really. When we scored our first goal, it brought the crowd back into play because Coventry fans were loud, and good luck to them. They brought pretty much best part of 2,000 fans down, and they were loud. We commented on it that they were so loud that it was unbelievable.
I did too. I was sitting with some people, and I happened to comment, do they realise it's a 2-hour journey home, this lot? But they were actually out singing Millwall, and that worried me a little bit, because the way Coventry started, they were on fire. The Swedish boy up front, he's not bad. Some of his runs were very threatening. I mean, we had trouble when he was going past our defenders. I mean, I was waiting for him to get brought down. He had a couple of little falls in the second half, which were laughable, but he was still a big. First half, he was a big threat.
He took his goal really well as well, didn't he? Like, I think he had a couple of opportunities. Even in the second half, Bart made a smart save, similar sort of setup, but he took the goal really well. And I think he's got 5 goals in 8 games now this season. So, you know, they're obviously all on a high, and the crowd, obviously, on their side is definitely coming to play as well, isn't it? It's just, I found it quite difficult at times yesterday when I was reflecting back the game. You get home, you're disappointed, even though it's a draw. I know, but it's 3 draws in a row. We drew 5 in a row last season, so I'm expecting us to probably beat that this year, potentially. We'll never know with Millwall. But I thought I was a bit envious of Coventry, the way they played and the slick passing football. And with us, we're quite. You're right to say, obviously, our goal was good build-up, but that's the only time we really kind of. Yeah. Moved it around and kind of we have the ability to do it. We saw it with the goal, but with Coventry, where they had O'Hare in the middle, and you know they were kind of pulling off defenders and bringing players out wide and moving the ball around, and all the Coventry fans were cheering every time they'd done these little slip moves to play out of possession. I'm just thinking, I don't want Mill to necessarily do that extreme, but there's no excitement in this side. Sometimes I feel like with Mill, it's quite difficult. I mean, how difficult is it to kind of stamp your authority on a team and have a style of play? I feel like I don't know what you take on that, Bryan.
No, I think you're 100% right, and as I said earlier, that the thing about Coventry yesterday was they looked as though they wanted it, and there were periods in the game where Millwall looked as though they wanted it, but not as urgently as what Coventry were playing. I mean, when they moved the ball around Coventry, there was some very, very slick football. And, they opened us up 2 or 3 times in the first half, and thought we were very fortunate and very lucky that we managed to steer them into wide positions where it was rather difficult to score than it was when they scored. But no, I enjoyed watching the game yesterday. I thought it was a surprise to me that it was in periods that kind of quality.
It was end to end at times, wasn't it? I felt like, and both sides really felt like it was.
Yeah, it could have ended up for 3 apiece at one stage. I thought it was. There were chances being created. There were things happening in the goal mouths. But again, it was just Millwall are at the Den, and I mean, where's the fear factor for these teams that are coming? I mean, the crowd outsung Millwall in the first half an hour, which was a worrying sign. They outplayed Millwall in the first 20 minutes. Where's the Den? This is the Den. We don't want coming here.
That's it. I mean, when you were playing, obviously, the picture behind me at the old Den, or the proper Den, you wouldn't have got away with playing like this, would you? Over the period of time where we've played like this, there would have been untold amount of pressure from the fans. If we had played like this, wouldn't we?
Well, when you think Benny Fenton bought players, and he bought well, not because he bought me, but because he went out and got talented players with first division clubs. Weller, Posse. Imagine getting Weller, Posse, and Burnett for under 50 grand. I mean, that's what managers were about in those days, and they are today. But that was work behind the scenes. When we went home, he's going to matches. He's going to reserve matches. He's going to 18 matches. He's picking up on these young players, and they might not be good enough. And I've just received a thing on my phone now. Very sad news that dear old Jimmy Greaves passed away this morning. I mean, when clubs could bring in those kind of players, it was difficult for the young players to break in. And I look at Liverpool today, and they've introduced quite a few good young players. Aston Villa brought in a young kid, boy Cash, who scored one of the goals against Everton. He looked lively. Funnily enough, my last thing at Aston Villa was I brought in a Finnish goalkeeper who's been on the bench when Martinez was away. Whether he'll ever get a chance, I don't know. But he's got everything for it. He's got the size. He's brave, decent hands. But there again, Finnish boy. Why should we bring in Finnish boys? We should be getting English boys in. We should be finding English goalkeepers. That was the essence of football in my day. every in my position, I mean, there were 10 goalkeepers who could play for England. There ain't 10 goalkeepers today that can play for England.
Very true. Go on, Micky.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think that's the difference. I mean, while we're talking about goalkeepers, before I ask my other question, I mean, how do you rate our keepers? How do you rate Bart's performance yesterday? I mean, personally, for us, I think he pulled off a couple of blinding saves that probably kept us well in the game. And obviously, the last game we played, his performance was great with the penalty save. I mean, how's your rating of Bart as a keeper in the current game? I know one thing what you'll probably disagree with, because we've spoken about this on previous shows, is he uses massive padded gloves. And in your day, obviously, you preferred not to use massive padded gloves, or they weren't around then.
Well, they weren't around for a start, but to be fair to him, and every goalkeeper playing today, the coating on the ball today does not allow for you to use bare hands. Simple as that. It's all programmed for money. It's all programmed for show. I mean, you see, last year, Peter Cech brought a pair of gloves out last year, £168. £168. Now, is that going to make you a better goalkeeper or not? It might help you to grip the ball, which you have to wear gloves today, because the coating on the ball. If I go and pick a ball up today, or somebody fires a ball at me, it's very difficult to hold on to the thing, But with those gloves, it's the same as Predator boots or any of these new boots have got no laces or special kind of studs. It's all relevant for the day. With Bart, as I say, the first goal, it could have been cleared 3 or 4 times. The finish was a good finish. Maybe allowed a little bit too much space to his right-hand side for the far post. But he's a shot stopper. He does pretty well one-on-one. The thing that worries me is when the ball is in the air, his decision-making for crosses. I've seen him get caught out 2 or 3 times. But there again, if you've got 3 centre-halves and big lads as well, maybe he's being told, or maybe he feels he doesn't have to come as much as I would have come, or goalkeepers in my era do. But he does okay. He does okay. I'm not sure whether I'm going to put him with the Millwall greats as such, but he's still got time to get in there, that's for sure.
There's definitely a lot of greats, though. Unfortunately,
we love a shot stopper at Mill as well. I feel like, because I feel like David Ford was a shot stopper for me. I don't know. I could be mistaken. Obviously, I'm a fan watching instead, but like that kind of the similar sort. I feel like Bart and David Ford always have some sort of similarities there. I don't know if that's me talking absolute rubbish, Bryan, or I don't know what you think. But I think Fordy for me was a legend. Like, I've got his shirt up here, for example, on my wall. But like I like Bart as well. He reminds me similar, like the ability to kind of get to the corner, shot stopping, like, and saving long range efforts and making it look quite easy. But then, like you say about how maybe when it's up close, maybe just getting down to the bottom corners might be the difficult part for the likes of Bart. Maybe
sometimes you might go a little bit early, with people coming in on the angle. There's a couple of goals I've seen that he's conceded where he's gone back on his heels early. But again, it's, somebody said to me yesterday, what about if you had to play today? How would you do? I said, well, I'd probably do badly because I'm 74 years old.
But in your prime,
yeah.
How and you didn't play when you played in the 60s, 70s, when obviously you had different balls, different way of playing. It was a lot more aggressive. If you were to, your career was now, you were where you were then, but now, and you were playing, how would you find playing in the current football setup?
Yeah, I could handle that. I'm pretty sure about that. I was a good size, with and without gloves. I had good hands. I used to come and catch crosses, which was probably a feature of my game. And somebody told me there was a thing on the television the other week from '74. Millwall Portsmouth. Yeah, the big match. And on it there was the save of the season, which I won against Brighton. and that was a big match save of the season, which they showed. And also I had a couple of saves against Portsmouth, which were relatively good, although I spoke to a couple of people and they said they thought I could have held that shot, but it was going in the top left-hand corner. Probably if I'd have had gloves on, I would have done. But yeah, I could handle that. I wasn't too bad with the kicking. You can soon adjust. Obviously, players can do a little bit more with balls than they did in our day, because when we started the game, it was a decent football, and if it was a heavy, rainy day, it finished up as a medicine ball. But today, the ball is lightly coated. The pitches are so good. I mean, you look at Millwall's pitch yesterday, and from where I was sitting, it looked excellent.
Yeah, they've just had it all redone. So they've just paid best part of, I think, about £500,000, and they've had it all dug up during off season. They were meant to do it 2 years before, because obviously we were playing the Wonderwall Cup there, and we couldn't get it 1 year, and then COVID hit, unfortunately. But we couldn't get it because they've literally ripped it all up. They put all new undersoil heating, undersoil drainage, everything else. But yeah, we commented on the pitch yesterday, because I said, it's looking a little bit haggard, but as Omer said, normally this part of the season
it starts cut up already.
It was cut up already. But I have to say, and if you listen, which I know some of them do, our ground staff are some of the best ground staff in the country. The miracles what they can pull off with that pitch are unbelievable.
Well, to be fair, being a groundsman today is a very, very high position at anything, whether it's football, cricket, or any sport. But when you see the way they turn Wimbledon out, and Wembley and Twickenham and all the major sporting areas and stadiums, I mean, you just have to hold your hands up to these groundsmen and say, well, they certainly know what they're doing. That's for sure.
No, that's it. I mean, another question while you were quickly. How it's probably a double question really, but one is, how much does confidence affect you as a player, and how does the crowd come onto that? If, for instance, like us, where we seem to be becoming draw merchants rather than going out to win. So, one is, how does confidence affect you, and then how does the crowd's attitude or performance affect you as a player?
Well, I feel this is going back to the old days now, in the old den. Before I joined Millwall, I spoke to Kenny Jones. I spoke to Peter Shreves. Kenny, of course, was a regular for Millwall at that time, and about coming in and joining Millwall Football Club. And he said to me, it's a good club. It's rough and ready. Telling you now, you will know in the first 12 months whether you're going to survive playing for Millwall or you're not. Simple as that. Because if they take to you, they'll take to you. But if they don't, then you've got to work hard to get them to accept you. And that was my position. I took over from two top goalkeepers. I mean, Alex Stepney was a top goalkeeper who went on to play, and the rest is history. Laurie Leslie came as a very experienced pro and a very, very good goalkeeper. Helped me immensely. He helped me so much that within 6 months, I took his place. But I think the crowd saw something that wasn't going to be hopeless in me. You understand me? Because if I made a mistake, I could always pull off something which was a little bit special. And I just kept playing. I didn't let it. I must admit, when I played in the reserves in one game, somebody knocked a pass back to me when I'd had a little bit of an iffy spell in the first team. I picked a back pass up, and the people that were there cheered it. And I'm thinking, now I know they're on my case. And as much as you want to turn around and put your fingers up and whatever, I always found them to be very knowledgeable and honest. Because if you needed a bollocking, you got it from them, pretty sharpish. But I can remember that turning point of there's a run of games, 5 or 6 games where I kept 5 or 6 clean sheets, I think. And I came back to the den there, had a couple of excellent games there, and it's a great lift, Mickey, when when they're with you, and whether it's at the new Den or the old Den, the crowd can still make or break you. I'm sure of that. Millwall crowd. It is a very, very. It's a tough crowd to please. It's a tough crowd to win over. But when you do it, you're there for life, mate. You're there for life. They never forget you. And as it proves with me, when I go down there, I hadn't played there for over 40 years. Funnily enough, in the programme yesterday, there was a match which we played 50 years ago, and that was against Norwich City. Norwich City were top of the league, unbeaten, and we were second or third unbeaten, I think. This was the first game we had where Ron Saunders had a warm-up programme that he introduced where the players went out on the pitch 20 minutes before. Talking about groundsmen, the Millwall pitch in that era, after a very heavy rainfall, would not take a 20-minute warm-up. And him and Benny standing there, I can still hear the row that went, because we were all looking through the door, because Benny's having a row with Ron Saunders about going on the pitch. He's going on that pitch, he said, I'll knock you out. And to be fair, Benny would. No one's going on that pitch. You've got about 50 coppers down there to stop them going out. So they had to stretch you out and warm up in that area before, just outside the dressing rooms. And I mean, Ron Saunders was furious. And he blames Benny and the police because we beat them 2-1. And that's the first time they got beat in 14 matches or 13 matches or something. And he blames Benny for breaking up his routines with the team. And Benny's reply was short and sharp. It started with an F and ended with a P or an F. And that was how it was. But I think the crowd still has a factor. That's why I was a bit surprised in the first 20-odd minutes that they were so quiet. I was waiting for that Millwall roar and no one likes us. But he got overshadowed a little bit by the Coventry City lot. And I never really responded, even when I played there, that they were a great, enthusiastic, creating atmosphere crowd. But I tell you, they done very, very well yesterday. They gave their club good support, and they made Millwall, I think they got Millwall to react, to wake up a little bit.
Definitely.
Supporters.
Yeah, I think it's because I don't think there's a divide on Rowett in the fan base for us just yet. But I know there's a lot of people it probably is a divide. I'm probably sugarcoating it now, Mickey. Let's be honest, especially if you read into Twitter and even at full time yesterday, going off to a boo when you've drawn 1-1 at home. Like maybe the boo was some for the referee, some for the players. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think we're in a position where it's a little bit of a crossroads moment. I feel for Gary Rowett, where it's like if he needs to kind of persevere with what he's setting up with, or maybe give into a more, I don't know, forward-thinking Millwall style of play. Maybe so. It's a bit of a kind of crossroads moment, which is, I suppose, it comes up every time in a manager's career, I suppose, especially at the Den. But it's a tough moment, I think, for him at the moment at the Den.
I think so, and I'm not sure whether he's helping his cause. Again, there's been a lot of managers in the last 10 years who, for me, seem to struggle to be so-called Millwall managers or players or managers who can not only handle the players but can handle the environment. He's had his bedding in period, and again, I mean, he's getting criticism for 3 decent draws and a win.
Welcome to Millwall.
The problem is, you look at the table, and Coventry are second, and Millwall are 4th or 5th from bottom. Yeah, which maybe is a little bit unfair, but
it's still early in the season, I suppose, and there's still loads of games to come. But it's just, I suppose, like, especially with not being able to go to the Den for 15, 16, 17 months, thanks to COVID and stuff, to then go back and then when you have, like, especially our home games, we had the Blackburn at home where we could have and should have put them away and won the game. We drew 1-1. Then we have Blackpool. I mean, obviously we had Fulham, and Fulham were just a different class, but obviously they've got the finances to support the players they've got. We kind of struggled over the line against Blackpool, but showed some resilience and got that first win. And then you've got, obviously, this game yesterday where, like, you know, I think we just need that kind of one big home performance, but I'm not certain we get that under the way we set up. Obviously, we've mentioned about the 5 defenders and stuff. I don't think we'll put teams away 3 or 4-0, which I think maybe he almost needs that one big win to kind of get the fans back on board a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the match on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday?
Against Leicester? Yeah.
That's certainly going to be a test because They've got quite a decent outfit up there. He's got them playing football. It'll be interesting to see how far Millwall have come, even this early in the season, to play against a Premier Division team. I think that'd be a great boost if they could nick a win there. For everybody, crowd, club, players, manager.
Yeah, no. I agree with that, and I think this is a good point to end part 1. So we will be back in part 2. We're going to ask Bryan some questions about the youth and bringing youth in, and also we're going to talk to him obviously possibly about the positioning setups, what we do. So yeah, join us. We'll be straight back after this. Welcome back to part 2. Again, we've still got Bryan on the show. One thing what was interesting, obviously, you've scouted, you've managed teams, obviously not in the UK, but you've managed teams and you scouted for teams in the UK. How hard is it to spot a good youngster and then try and bed them into the team? We've got some really good youngsters what are going out on loan and that, and at the moment we could probably do with some of those players playing in striking positions or in positions where we need players. But I mean, how hard is it to, why doesn't a manager bring these players through?
Well, again, it's how these kids are doing wherever they are on loan. But as you say, if there is a distinct shortage, and when you see some of the Premier League clubs, I mean, some of these academies are producing. I think Chelsea 4 or 5 years ago, when Frank Arneson was there, spent over £70 million on bringing in young players, of which half of them just disappeared, and the rest have progressed and made an awful lot of money for the football club. Where Millwall have to be extremely resilient is that the South London area has always turned up football talent. But as you say, Millwall, you've got Crystal Palace, you've got Charlton. And then just down the road now, I can't understand why Millwall haven't progressed as quickly as what Brentford have. Now, here's a club that 2 or 3 years ago were also runs. But now, in the last 3 or 4 years, they've introduced a foreign coach and a foreign scouting system, and they brought in good foreign players. I mean, the boy Norgård playing in central midfield. I watched him playing in Denmark when he was 15, 16 years of age, and everybody said he lacks pace. First thing everybody said, he lacks pace. But he was good on the ball. He was clever on the ball. And what about Glenn Hoddle? Did he lack pace? Yes. But he could open defences and change games by just one single pass, or in an area of the field where he was maybe 25, 30 yards out, you're waiting for the pass, and he hits a wonder goal. I haven't seen the young players at Millwall, but again, as you say, Micky, I've heard that there is talent there. I think the manager's thinking at the moment, it's difficult. We're having to fight for results. Senior players are needed at this time, and maybe it's putting too much early pressure on young players, to come in and have to produce. I mean, you know yourself, when as a young player, you need the end product straight away. I mean, there's no courting period here. It's the kid comes in, and as we say today, and we said in my day, if they're young and they're good enough, then give them a chance, because there is a lot of talent out there, and these kids have got great enthusiasm. And maybe yesterday you needed 1 or 2 young players to show the others a bit of enthusiasm. It
also helps to bring fans on side as well, doesn't it? I suppose, because we always love one of our own as well, sort of thing to it, and that always has the advantages there. I don't want to steer away from you talk too much, but you mentioned Brentford there, but you knew with Brentford, regardless of who the head coach is, or in their case, obviously instead of manager, you knew what Brentford's identity was. They've got Matthew Benham there, and he's obviously got the affiliations in Denmark or Norway, or I can't remember which club it is over there. It's Michelin, isn't it? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, Michelin, yeah, there you go. Yeah, and they've got the identity of what they do, and this is how we recruit. This is how we want to play. Whereas with Millwall, we're kind of I feel like a bit an old-fashioned club, which obviously is a good thing about Millwall, but at the same time, you say about obviously not progressing up. I feel like we get held back a lot because you bring a manager in, he has his ideas, manager leaves, you bring a manager in afterwards, and he has a completely different list of ideas, and then he transitions the squad to how he likes it, signs X, Y, and Z, and then the next person comes in after that and has the same problem where he likes to have A, B, C instead. And I think I do sometimes, I've said this on the pod a few times with Micky, like I feel like we lack that direction of someone to say, this is how Millwall's going to play, and this is what we're going to do. And then hopefully the manager can then abide to that, or at least be on the same page with it, if you know what I mean.
Well, again, unfortunately, in today's game, managers don't seem to have enough time. Mm-hmm. I mean, Benny Fenton, I think, was a Millwall manager for 10 years, probably the longest serving Millwall manager in the last 50 years. And as you say, as soon as things start to deteriorate, and that's why I'll hold my hands up to Coventry City, because it's been very easy to sack Mark Robbins last year, but they stuck with him. And he's proved that the things that he was trying to implement last year are starting to bear fruit now. And full marks to him and full marks to Coventry. But again, as you say, it might be a little bit easier and a bit more tolerant up at Coventry than they are at the New Den or the Millwall supporters, which is nothing against them.
No, I think this is the first season now in a long time where we've started to scout overseas, because for some unknown reason we didn't seem to want to scout overseas at all, like Germany, France, Norway, Sweden, etc. We just didn't seem to want to scout these players when potentially there's probably some players there what could play in the Championship and play well for us. I mean, possibly get them cheap.
Well, you saw the boy who played for Coventry yesterday. I mean, they've nicked him out of the Swedish league. Not a top player, but I tell you what, everybody who saw him play yesterday, they thought he was a major threat to Millwall. Every time he got the ball and run at us, he caused problems. And he scored again. And as Omar said, I think he scored 4 or 5 goals in the last 4 or 5 matches. But there is the new Brexit law, of course, where young players now can't move from abroad until they're 18. But you can still go out and look at players of 16 and 17 and keep them at the club where they are. Bring them over for periods and let them do a bit of training with the side, and then bring them in when they're old enough. But it is getting harder. It's more competitive. There's not a great emphasis now on scouting within football clubs, as in eyes, as in physically going and looking for players with your scouts' eyes. It's a lot of stats, a lot of analysts. Personally, I don't think it's right. I don't think that's ever going to bring scouting to the 21st century. It's a feeling. You get a feeling when you go and look at a player. I go back to when I was at Tottenham and I saw Luka Modric for the first time, and so small. Could he cope with the physical side and this as he was 18, 19? But then when I saw him when he was 20, 21, I mean, great energy, great feet, run all day, pass it, can score goals from distance. So Spurs signed him. It was a lot of money. If they'd have signed him 3 years earlier, it'd have been peanuts. But by the time it was time to sign him, other clubs were interested, and it was a position of selling Spurs to him and also his own club. And they had the price. That's the price. They brought him in, and again, the rest is history, because he's gone on to be one of the best players in the world.
When you're scouting, what other players have you scouted over the years? I mean, any other names what we know, and also what do how hard is it for you to see a player and go, he's going to fit into that team or he's going to fit into that club. And then you then obviously have to sell that player to the club or the manager you're speaking to. And then you've got to obviously try and sell the team to that player if you're definitely interested in him.
Well, when I was at Aston Villa, I took Olaf Mellberg, who played many years for Aston Villa, Swedish international. Again, we first approached Olaf when he was playing for a small club in Sweden called Degerfors. Could have had him for 400,000 euros. Dear old Deadly said no, it's too much money for a Swedish second division player. Later paid 5 million to a Spanish club. And Olaf become, as John Gregory says to me, probably one of his best signings ever. But I pushed him, and certainly John liked him. And he proved to be a great servant to Aston Villa and also Sweden. He played over 100 times for Sweden. Before I was really scouting, I had good contacts with managers. Alex Ferguson took over at Man United. He came to Norway to look at a couple of players who weren't good enough. I was in America, the Norway Cup, as a Norway Cup representative at the USA Cup. There was a third division team there called KFUM Oslo, which is like a boys' club team. And the centre half was not a big, strong centre half, but he was a clever centre half with great feet. He read the game great. 16 years of age. Sent him up to Fergie. He was there 3 days. Fergie comes back. We'll have him. He's great potential. And then we found out, of course, he had never played international football. He'd never been in the under-15s or under-16s, so he had no international caps at all. And after Fergie quieted down, he said, well, we can't sign him, and then I think it was several years later, he bought him from Blackburn Rovers for about £6 million. And he always said to me, I had the kid in the room, we could have got him for about £10,000 compensation. But Henning done well, and he's had a great career. He's managing now in Cyprus, I think, with a team in Cyprus, but played over 100 times for Norway. Funnily enough, the last big one I had in England was Haaland. We had him at Everton with his father. He spent a few days there, played for the youth team. Didn't look quite as mobile as he does today. Thought he could have been a Duncan Ferguson type with pace. And they didn't fancy him. Then Manchester United came in not so long ago, but they were too late. They were too late, actually, getting in touch with his father, the agent, and the club. And in missing the deadline, he joined Red Bull Salzburg. And after a year of scoring goals for fun, he went on to now, and he plays for Borussia Dortmund. And this is a player, at that time we brought him in, and he'd been and visited a couple of other English clubs. You could have got him with the compensation rule for 55,000 euros. That was a compensation package. He just wanted to play in England, and his father, of course, Alfie, who I know quite well, and he had a good career in England and also for Norway. He didn't feel at the time that Everton would be the right club for him. They went back to Norway and carried on playing for Brina, and then he went to Molde with Solskjaer, and then sold on to Salzburg, and from Salzburg to Dortmund. Now everybody's talking about him, possibly coming into the English game in the near future, and the figure's 100 million euros. So you can win some and lose some.
No, definitely.
But I've just enjoyed travelling and finding some of these players and getting them brought into the clubs.
So sorry, the question there I was just going to say before we look to move to an end is what are the rules around the compensation? You've mentioned it a couple of times, and obviously we've got a couple of players where they're not signing, and obviously it's looking at compensation. How does that compensation rule work then for a youngster?
To be fair, Mick, I think it's changed now because of Brexit, of course.
Yeah.
You can't bring a foreign player in who's not 18 years of age. You might scout them when they're 15, 16. That's what we used to do. But then, of course, you're not only when you're going to a game, you're not going to be the only scout there. You're going to be very lucky to pick out a game where you're going to find a player. You know, I was going to games that'd be four Dutch clubs, 4 German clubs, 2 French clubs, Spanish clubs, Italian clubs, English clubs, all at the same game as you were. So it ain't easy to not say that these guys ain't going to see what you see, because they'd all been working at it for quite some time, and you get a feeling for a kid. You get a feeling for the way he plays, the way he conducts himself, the way he warms up. You know, all these things you look at, and then of course clubs go into the private side of his life to see how he conducts himself off the pitch, and that used to also apply when I was playing. I mean, clubs used to check up on the way players. You know, how long's he been in the pub? Is it a regular visit he does? You know, and he might only go in the pub. I remember when I was growing up in the first part of Millwall days, people said, "Cool, you go down to King's Arms a lot, don't you?" You know, yeah, but we used to go. That was our computer in there. That was our Facebook. That was our have a game of darts, have a game of crib, you know, have a game of nap or whatever. You know, the competition was fierce in these pubs. I mean, you had to win to stay on. The same with dominoes and these kind of things. But I know it don't sound very exciting today, but that was our computer games, really.
Yeah, no, look, I agree, and I think we'll bring this to an end. But I think with the breaking news that's come on while we've been on about the sad passing of Jimmy Graves at the age of 81. Obviously, he was part of the World Cup winning squad of 1966. He scored a remarkable 44 goals in 57 games with England. Have you got a story or something about Jimmy that you'd like to tell us?
Well, there's a story in the book, Mickey. So don't forget the book. But
well, I'm going to give the book a plug afterwards because it's now available at the club shop. And obviously, or you can go on to Little Hell Books, and you could probably order one from there and get Bryan to sign it for you. So
I believe
all the links in there.
I've got a signing to do in November at Waterstones in Chelmsford.
Yep. Right.
I believe Waterstones have also got it now. It took a bit of time, of course, because the publisher Jim Murray was a little bit reluctant to put it on there, but always grateful for Jim, and always another great Millwall supporter. He's a Millwall supporter.
And if you don't know Jim wrote Lion of the South, which is pretty much an encyclopedia for Millwall fans. So yeah. But
and also the guy who wrote my book, Mark Howarth, done a tremendous job. I mean, he
done a fantastic job. Yeah,
exactly what I think. But let's go back to Jimmy. Let's go back to Jimmy. I was playing for Coventry City. It's 1965. I was just coming up for 18. Coventry City played in the Metropolitan League, which was a league which had West Ham A team in it, Arsenal A team, Charlton reserves, Tottenham A team, Luton reserves. You know, it was a good league. And for young players to play it, and I played against Derek Posse and Keith Weller 2 years before I even met him at Millwall. And the same with Kitch. I played against him. But this particular game, we were going to play Spurs at Cheshunt in the Metropolitan League. Now, Jimmy had been out for a week. He'd got a whack on his ankle. And this was an opportunity for him to play an A-team match after he just played in the reserve team. So he was going to get 2 games before they played Manchester United at home, I think. And, of course, the old A4 piece of paper came in our dressing room, and the usual names would be on it: John Pratt, Jimmy Pearce, Posse, those kind of names. And also there was a name, Greaves, on it. And Peter Collins, who played with me at Chelmsford, who went on to play for Tottenham, turned to us and said, I won't use his interpretation, but it was, blimey, look who's playing at number 10. So we said, well, who is it then? He said, Jimmy Greaves. So fair enough. The old heir was standing up by then, and this is one of the all-time great players in that period of 65. And we got out, and I must admit, he murdered Peter Collins, and on his own, I mean, he had me up and down like a yo-yo 2 or 3 times when he was one-on-one. I mean, it's incredible with Greavesy. I mean, he could go either way, either foot, and it looked ridiculously easy when he scored. And as it says in the book, I think it was a dress rehearsal for his goal he scored against Man United when he danced through the whole of the Manchester United defence and went round the goalkeeper and scored. But it was funny, at half-time, we're 4-0 down and he scored all 4 goals. And he's walking off, and there's Bill Nick and Eddie Bailey standing on the side. So he just looked across to him. He said, was that all right? I've heard the missus. I've got to do something to the missus. He said, am I finished? So Eddie Bailey says to him, well, you think you've done enough then? He said, well, 4 goals, should have had 6. Ain't that enough? He never come out second half. But he came in the dressing room and stuck his head round the door, and he said, well done, boys, you've all got futures, just keep at it. And he looked at me and he said, lucky I never got 6, really, wasn't it? And he said, the last one you saved from me, son, he said, that's good enough. He said, that's good enough. You're nearly as good as Pat Jennings. And I thought, he didn't have to do that, did he? He didn't have to do that. He was Jimmy Greaves.
It's brilliant. That's yeah. It's like you say, he did have to do that. I suppose for you, obviously back then as well, it must have been a big morale boost for you as well. I take it.
Fantastic. I mean, just who he was. I mean, he was a great, great footballer, and I still say 2 of them got knighted along with Elf, Jeff Hurst and Bobby Charlton. Why did the other 9 not get knighted? I will argue that case to the day I die, because Sir Jimmy Greaves, and Sir Gordon Banks, and so on.
But I fully agree with you. I don't see why a couple did. But look, Bryan, you have been an absolutely superb guest, as always, and I can't appreciate you giving up your Sunday morning to come on the show. What I would say is Bryan's book is available now in the club shop. It is available on Little Hell Books website as well, which we will put all the links in the descriptions. Again, Bryan is coming over again in November, so as soon as we know what the book tour is or where he's doing signings, we will let you know. He is obviously going to be in Chelmsford. Hopefully, Millwall will get him at the club shop when he's over, because he's coming over to visit and watch a few games. And
Micky, can I just say, I believe I've got to do something. The Reading game,
yeah.
Either up in the lounge or one of the lounges. I'm also going to probably do the VIP thing against Derby, and also your presentation, which I'm really looking forward to. And the Birmingham City game in December. I'm going to be in the club shop then, so I've heard.
Right. So again, ideal Christmas present for Bryan's book. The writer, Mark, who did his book, it is like Bryan sitting in the room telling you his story. The way that it's written is superb. Mark is an ex-sports journalist, an ex-journalist, and he writes it really, really well. So look, if you want to get the book, it's priced at $19.99, available from the club shop, probably all good websites as well. And obviously, it's a Millwall legend. Thank you very much for coming. That pretty much brings us to the end of this show. So thanks very much, Omer, for joining us. That little bit of noise is Omar's neighbour doing his garden.
I did fix it. I closed the window, so we're all good.
It's all fixed now. So
we're professionals here.
That's it. Look, If you like the show, remember, give us a 5-star rating if you listen to this as a podcast on Spotify or on iTunes. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, make sure you click that button. And also make sure you click the bell so you never miss a video from us. That's it. We've been That Millwall Podcast. And this was episode 16. And we will be back on later on in the week. So thanks very much. Speak to you all soon.